Starting with just playing through the quizzes, this is Marianne, 37. Okay, that's the easier of the two for the it'll be quiz 3. Melody's all in the left hand. It's kind of simple, except you have that challenge in lines 2 and 4 where your left hand reaches out your pinky to get another note. And then in the right hand, what's new is these block chords, but we've already gone on and worked on them, so that's not really new. So we skip over and we go through 42. In this one, right hand starts with the melody, and in the middle, left hand takes over. That's a challenge to mentally make that switch. It's like really a mind thing, controlling your hands and keeping it steady as you can. The other thing people miss is at the ends of line 1 and 2, it's a different note, and the same 3 and 4. Just pay attention to the last note in the melody. Oh, you know what? Before I go to 50, I'm going to run through 48. Bottom of 48, I'm just going to play it through. And the chords. Okay, so that was a quick review. We're into the new stuff. Page 50, I'm just going to go through the bottom lines as a warm-up. Not that I need the warm-up, but for you, it's a good warm-up. Okay, so I started working through 51, breaking it down a little. There's nothing more to add as far as breaking it down. What I think I'm going to do is, without really talking, I'm just going to do the elements. I'll do the right hand, I'll do the left hand, and I'll put together little segments, and you can kind of see how I work through it. I'm not going to like keep repeating the little sections, but you need to do that until you get things. Notice I put those rests in there. Sometimes when you practice small little spots, you might kind of just do a section and not really wait for the rest, but it's important to know they're there, even if you choose to work around them. Next step is probably 2 measures hands together. You can go slower if it's hard, a little faster if it's easy. Maybe 5 times, maybe 4, maybe 6. It really depends on what you've done already. Moving on. So I played it a little fast and then a little slower. If you do it and it feels fast, just slow it down. Next line, beginning like the top. We're going to go to the end. You do that a couple times. Then you can go back and put the lines together. Maybe the first day you don't do that. Maybe you do. Bottom of the page, right hand. And as I said, line 2 is just like line 1, but beginning and end are reversed. Beginning goes at the end and goes at the beginning. Here we go. Rest, rest, rest. Both of these on this page present challenges when they're new, and it's just going to take some work to get it down. You can really focus on one line because you'll get all the skills. If that's hard, line them up. Don't go. They line up. When they line up vertically on the page, they line up together. So if it feels hard, do a little. Work like that, going on. Notice the left hand starts differently. It's a 4th, not a 5th. So you can work step by step like that. And that's all the material there. Second line, same material. All right, band leader, easy peasy. That's easier than the previous page because it's one hand at a time. All right, money, sharps, top of 54. You're going to need to read that box. Look at the diagram. It shows the A sharp. It's a black note. You go to the right, which is up. I'm going to play one line right hand. If that's hard, slow and smaller section. Starting in the middle. So you work that out and then probably put it together 2 measures at a time. Once you hit the first beat in that second measure, you just lift and keep doing it. Next measure. So you would do each of those measures a number of times till it gets easier. The first time you do this, you might not even worry about putting the line together. In fact, honestly, the first time you do this, you might just focus on right hand and looking over the intervals. It really depends on how easy it is for you. Line 2, melody's a little bit different, no black notes. Left hand. Two measures. I just realized that I turned this enough. I guess that's enough. I can't remember if I shifted it. When that's easy, you move on. So the first time you do this, maybe just hands separately. Maybe a little bit together. It really depends on your time, your other classes, what other songs you're working on in that session. The second time, try to get some of this together, even if it's just small units. By the third time, you should try to work through at least a line, like at least a line and then another line, rather than just sticking to 2 measures. You might start with 2 measures and then move on. Now, line 3 is like line 1. Line 4 is almost the same. In the last measure, there is 1 note different in the right hand. It's in the right hand, it's the first beat. So you're going to want to watch out for that. Now, I told you there's a writing page. You should go over it, whether you think it through or write it through. Alrighty, page 58. G chord in root position and D7. My pinky, I think that's in, the image is kind of small. For this, look at your chart. Look at the keyboard graphic and the finger numbers. Remember, thumbs are 1 in both hands. And the F sharp is black. It's pink in that image because of they're showing the chord. So you're going to want to do those, work through the chord drills. Cuckoo, let's do first line right hand. It's 3/4, 3 beats in a measure. Half note, quarter, half note, quarter. So you might work that section up a bit and then decide where you need to work. Maybe just the end, maybe the whole line. Once you get it, remember it has to repeat. The last line is like that too. So once you have one line, you have 50% of the work done for this song. Line 2. Over and over, I often see people forgetting half note, quarter note, how that sounds. You need to listen. If it were in a private lesson situation, the instruction would be geared specifically for you, exactly where you are. But in a class, this is what you need to learn. And the best way to get that rhythm is to listen to it. I think I played you how it goes wrong. I don't want to really do that because I don't want you to hear that. People make those notes even, and they're not even. Line 2, long tie. So there's the 3 tied notes. You just hold that down. 1, 2 Bs. So listen for that rhythm. So you want to be working on that. And I know I'm adding in more songs. Many of you won't be able to get these all started right away, but they're here for you when you're ready to start. Top of 60, I mentioned this last class. I'm coming, I think that's too high. That might not be. Right hand G chord. And the hardest one to play for your hand to figure out is the D7. You'll be able to see in this overhead when my hand goes kind of back. If you're a guy with big fingers, this is an option. Instead of thumb on F sharp, 2. If you have small hands, that won't work. The bottom of the page, they have these block chord, broken chord exercises. And page 60, what is it, 61, is kind of an arpeggio all the way through. It's a broken chord. You can place both hands in position. You don't have to do one and then the other. Down the road, once you know these chords, if you do it in one hand, it's going to be extremely easy to do it in the other hand once you've learned them. And that just makes it easier to learn. Two chords, whole song. I'm going to mention something that I did there a couple times. I try not to do it when I'm demonstrating this without pedal, but there is a technique that's sort of, I don't know if the word generic is correct, but often certain sports or instruments have certain things that aren't really written or said, but they're interpreted a certain way. And in piano, when you have a chord that sort of goes one note at a time, it's a very common thing to hold them all down. It's like you add each note. That's called finger pedaling. It's like fingers, pedal meaning it holds the tones through. We think of pedal as the actual tool, the thing you put your foot on, but the word actually here refers to the sound, that overlapping smooth sound. You can have a pedal tone without even touching the pedal. I can play a low tone and I can make that a pedal tone by playing different chords. Like, let's see, what can I do? Because I held one tone, I doubled it, octave. Wait, I got to get this tuned. I just had it tuned a couple of months ago. All right. It's called pedal because it holds while other things move. So you can do that if you want. Probably initially when you're learning, you should play each note and pick them up. Because there are times in music where you have to do that, and you don't really know yet how you would determine when you have to pick them up and when you don't. So to actually learn to read precisely, you would pick them up. But if you keep on playing, you'll eventually play things where there's a pattern like, and it's written like this. I'm going to go slower, but it's interpreted. This is a classical music, Mozart, early Beethoven, Clementi. You do that finger pedal thing, and that's kind of expected. It's part of the style, if that makes sense. So the thing is, for me, it's so natural to just do that. I always try not to do it, but I held a couple of those notes down. I just want to mention that. So you can try it both ways, or you can just lift. Alrighty, where are we? Liza Jane, something new. Let me just take a peek here. I think what I'm going to do, at this point, I'm really getting ahead. Many of you aren't going to be starting these, but there's time. It's going to be recorded, and I will come back and do them again. I think what I'm going to do is, rather than break these down, just do kind of a preview, and I'll play through some of the rest of the things we'll do. They'll just be here as a playthrough. So 62, it's focusing on writing these chords. Tip to the wise. If you're taking this just this term and you don't have an interest in continuing, or maybe you do, but you're swamped with work, don't worry about writing them and writing them perfectly and all that. If you take music theory, and if that's coming up for you, like if you're music industry, you got to take music theory, I would do it. Because you have to not only write, but you have to know how to write and do it neatly and correctly. But when we talk about, I like to talk about, where should you put your energy? What are the most important things that you'll get the most out of the most effectively? Recognizing them is good. Look at that, and it says G, D7, G, G, D7. That's good. Writing it maybe a few times is good. Now, I'm a theory geek. I love this stuff. In college, I used to go home and do them and then do extra because I just liked it. So that's just like, as these written things come up, do a little. If you're going to take theory, probably do them all. So there's chord exercise. You're not going to be able to do that first. You do the long notes at the top, and you do this slow at first until you get it. But once you can move between those chords, it's easier to go fast. I'm just going to play the song through for you. The melody starts in the left hand, and then the left hand does chords, and the right hand takes over the melody. So it actually jumps quite a distance. It's like, whoa, that instead of that's how it really goes. Or next page, it has you writing the chord symbols. It explains block chords and broken chords. Chords can be broken in more than one way. Alrighty. So this is more about to see what's coming up ahead. Do not freak out and worry if you haven't done Jingle Bells, you really have to do that. You have to get it done. I'll help you if you need help, because you need to be working on the next one and getting that in. And then we're going to have a quiz in the G position. We have new note in the left hand. Your thumb is going to reach over one note. It's spelled out for you with a graphic. I'm at the top of 64. Those are broken chords. If I did this, that's blocked. There's pictures at the bottom. Now here's a little, you'll notice this. Going from a G in this position to C in this position. Your hand does the exact same thing you do going from C to F. It feels exactly the same, except your hand starts at a different position. So once you get that, that'll be easy. Now, this next song is a song I never really do complete, with rare exception. It's got a challenge that's kind of new for this many weeks of piano. And I always go over the first line. Generally, I go over the first two lines and I explain to people, if you are going on to piano 2 at Drexel, you got to get 2 lines down. Doesn't matter if you can do the last 2. 3 is like 1. And 4 is a little different. If you can do 2, you have then the start of the skills you need. If you're done with piano, like if you're a senior and this is your last term, if this is a requirement or a choice and it's just 1 and done, then I'd suggest that you play through it, but it's never going to be a quiz song. But the skills for this are going to be all over the place. In piano 2, you're going to really need this. And it's going to be super hard if you don't have this little foundation. So I'm not going to work this now, but I'm going to show you kind of how I will when we get there. First of all, let's hear 2 lines. This is top of 65. It's one of those old sing-alongs, like from the early part of, what would it be, the 20th century, late 19th century, I guess. Kind of, it's not exactly a folk song. I don't know what it is. I learned it as a kid because all the old folks sang it. And a lot of songs in these books are like that, simply because of copyright. They can't put Beatles songs in a piano lesson book. The royalties would make the book extremely expensive. So that's why you see songs that are sometimes a little hokey. But what's hard in this song is measure 3. I'm going to play the first 2, they're easy. This is 3. Your hands are going to be doing different things at the same time. That's going to be hard at first. But don't worry, because when we get to this point, and I'm not going to do this now, I'm going to overview it now. I will show you how you can work it. If you're going on, you definitely have to work through this. If you're not, I'd suggest that you do it unless you're really overwhelmed. Everything you do with your time, you have to really look at the big picture. So what happens in measure 3 is the right hand repeats a note and then holds, while the left hand, it's moving. Every beat it's moving. Now, in the beginning, this looks like everything's different all over the place. However, the left hand is a chord. It's a C chord. And it's just broken into a pattern. So when I see something like that in the left hand, I don't see 6 different things. I see really one thing. I see a chord and a pattern. So the point is your brain ultimately coordinates this. When we get there, we will break it down into very tiny steps because you're going to have to get your muscle memory going to get this. Normally, like let's say it was a child taking lessons. The great thing about kids is they have a lot more time. Like I started when I was maybe 6, almost 7, and it's no big deal if a kid plays for 2 years and they can't play a great solo. But with adults, like once they've played for 3 weeks, they want to impress their friends. It's like you want it to be good and hard and fancy and fast right away. So that's a tricky part. So line 2 is actually a little simpler. I think I'm going to go on because this way I can just, okay, we have more writing work. All right. Page 68 introduces C and G, same as we just did, but in the right hand. It's a whole page of that. There's going to be a warm-up. You can take it. So when you get to this point, you're going to do all the warm-ups. I'm just going to play the song through. It's going to have a melody in the left hand and alternating chords in the right hand, sort of like when we did one hand plays and then another hand plays. That's what this does. Alpine melody. Then we've got like a little chord exercise. At this point, there's a funny little position where the hands are crowded in the middle. I'm not going to go over that now. I'm going to play you one last thing today, and we're probably going to end up early unless if anybody's here and has not completed the Jingle Bells quiz and wants to hang on and play it for me this way, you can do that. This is going to be your final.